Barakatuh. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our opening session. And please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Abdullah Hamidan. I am the General Secretary of Zaid Higher Organization, the host of this Congress. And we have a distinguished guest here. We'll start to introduce themselves. So, Dr. Gutenberg.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency Abdullah Al-Humaidan. Before I introduce, I need to say thanks to Zaid Higher Organization, you yourself, your team, and all those who collaborated to make this event happen. And this includes many active people also in ISA and in Rehabilitation International. You asked me to introduce myself. I'm Christoph Gutenbrunner. I'm a professor in rehabilitation medicine. I was working in Hanover Medical School in Germany, but now I'm reaching out as a president of Rehabilitation International at the global level. I'm extremely happy to be here to share these days with you here in Abu Dhabi.
So we can, Marina, if you just introduce quickly yourself, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pauliina Lampinen, and I work with Rehabilitation International for many years now. I was the chair of Policy and Services Commission, and now I'm the chair of the Education Commission. And in my day job back home in Finland, I work as a development manager in charge of our Laura University of Applied Sciences, where I am in charge of the bachelor's degree in social sciences.
I'm Haifa Al-Kailani. I am proud and honored to be here with you all today. I'm president and founder of the Arab International Women's Forum in London, a non-profit organization which I founded 23 years ago to support and empower women in the Arab region, but always within a global context. I'm also a fellow of Harvard Advanced Leadership Initiative. I'm really proud to be here and addressing how we can empower and support women of disabilities in the workforce. So, thank you again.
So, hello and good morning to everybody. My name is Annette Tavara. I'm Director General in the Federal Ministry of Labor and Foreign Affairs in Germany. I'm very pleased to be here. My directorate is responsible for quite some things, but among those things is the issue of disability or determination, as I heard the term here at the conference a lot of times. So I'm very happy to be here and to share our experiences. Thank you.
Sorry. Soy Gabriela Michetti, vengo desde la Argentina, Latinoamérica. He sido política, una mujer de la vocación pública durante 33 años en mi país. Me dediqué como técnica, primero en el área de relaciones internacionales, económicas, y luego como política, como en un partido político que creamos en la Argentina hace alrededor de 20 años. Fui la vicepresidenta de la Nación y ahora, por primera vez, estoy dedicada recientemente al sector privado y voy a comenzar a trabajar casi a los 60 años en negocios internacionales, exportaciones e inversiones en la Argentina. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for our esteemed participant. Now, to start our session, we just want to confirm that this will be the first session talking about the main four. Thank you. Four main pillars. So it will be looking into developing public policies and retaining skilled labor pathways and breaking barriers and building future. Before we start, I would just ask if they can allow me, the audience, we want to show a small short video which could be linked into our main pillars. That will be a discussion that ZHO and one of our strategic partners named Filmgate have accomplished 2 years back. So now we go back to our guest, Her Excellency Gabriela.
Ok, thank you. Bueno, voy a hablar en español porque es mi lengua, les pido disculpas, me siento muchísimo más cómoda, así que cuando tenga el inglés un poco más perfecto, lo vamos a usar para dar alguna charla. Bueno, lo primero que quiero decir es que estoy feliz, muy feliz de estar en Emiratos Árabes Unidos. Es un país que amo, con el que he trabajado como vicepresidenta de mi país en negociaciones internacionales, sobre todo económicas, y la verdad ha sido un verdadero placer trabajar con la familia real y poder tener contacto concreto y real con ellos para poder beneficiar a ambos países. Así que estoy muy feliz, Abdullah. Muchas gracias por haberme invitado y a todo el Consejo Directivo del Congreso. Lo que quiero transmitirles es sencillo y a su vez creo que profundo. Cuando tuve mi accidente de automóvil a los 29 años, llegué al hospital de mi pueblo. El accidente fue en el campo, en un camino de tierra. Llegué a mi pueblo y estaba mi padre, que es médico, esperándome en la puerta del hospital para hacerme los estudios básicos que hay que hacer, en este caso, que yo no sentía la mitad de mi cuerpo. Y cuando lo vi a papá con cara de preocupación, porque ya le habían dicho que el accidente había sido grave, lo que me salió del alma decirle fue: no te preocupes, papá, yo voy a ser feliz igual en una silla de ruedas. Y lo supe desde el primer momento, algo de neurología sabía, por ser hija de médico y hermana de médico, y me daba cuenta que tenía una lesión medular importante. Y me salió eso del alma, y yo creo que si 5 minutos antes alguien me decía: vas a quedar con una lesión medular y no vas a poder caminar el resto de tu vida, yo hubiera dicho: no, qué horror, me muero, no puedo vivir, no sé, es tremendo. Sin embargo, en el momento me salió de adentro esa frase: yo voy a ser feliz igual en una silla de ruedas. Y esto es lo que básicamente quiero transmitir. Voy a hacer un poquito de paralelismo de mi vida personal con las políticas públicas que fui desarrollando. Cuando comenzamos a trabajar en la política, he venido con una compañera de trabajo que fue la especialista en políticas de discapacidad, y por eso me la traje conmigo para que me asista y me ayude en todo, Marina, que está acá presente, y te agradezco que hayas venido, Marina. Lo que hicimos fue llegar, primer cargo que tuve electoralmente fue la vicejefatura de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires. Fui primero legisladora y luego vicejefa, vicegobernadora de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires. Y en esa época estábamos con el tema de la Convención de Naciones Unidas para la Discapacidad. Lo primero que hicimos fue: tenemos que implementar esto en políticas concretas. No podemos dejar toda esta letra, todo este contenido en un papel. Tenemos que bajarlo a políticas concretas y a leyes concretas en nuestro país. Ratificamos la Convención y empezamos a trabajar. ¿De qué manera? De manera transversal. Había una oficina que se dedicaba, o muchas oficinas, pero una fundamentalmente, que se dedicaba a hacer asistencialismo con la discapacidad. Y nos dimos cuenta que eso era nefasto, porque lo que no hacía era ayudar a las personas a ser ellas mismas, a poder poner su singularidad, sus capacidades distintas a las de todos en juego. Entonces, lo que hicimos fue hablar con cada ministro de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires y decirles, todos tenemos que trabajar por la discapacidad. En cada política pública, la de educación, la de cultura, la de obras públicas, la de salud, todas las políticas públicas tienen que tener una mirada desde la discapacidad. Incluir este tema dentro de las políticas del ministerio. Y así trabajamos con cada ministro y les aseguro que tanto Marina como yo los volvimos locos. Los volvimos locos. Empezamos a trabajar todo el día diciéndoles, hay que hacer la ciudad accesible. Necesitamos incluir a la gente que tiene una discapacidad de manera concreta. Los niños tienen que ir a una plaza, a un parque, y deben poder jugar juntos aquellos que tienen una discapacidad con los que no tienen una discapacidad. Entonces hicimos juegos inclusivos y todos jugaban el mismo juego. No había juegos para chicos con discapacidad y juegos para chicos sin discapacidad. Todos eran inclusivos, todos eran para todos. Así trabajamos en la ciudad. Luego, mi carrera política fue creciendo y pude llegar a la vicepresidencia de la Nación, que es la segunda autoridad en nuestro país. El primero es el presidente y luego el vicepresidente. Bueno, me tocó ese cargo, la gente me eligió para estar ahí y también decidimos hacer lo mismo, que nos había dado una maravilla de éxito y de logros en la ciudad. En la ciudad, por ejemplo, les doy un dato, ¿cómo será como nosotros decimos, el rompedero de cabeza? Rompemos la cabeza de cada ministro todos los días, que en 2 años pasamos a tener de 4.000 rampas en toda la ciudad de Buenos Aires, 36.000 en 2 años. Se puede. Cuando uno pone esta mirada, se puede avanzar. Entonces llegamos a la Nación y dijimos, vamos a hacer lo mismo. Vamos a trabajar primero con todos los estados subnacionales, porque la Argentina es un país que es como una federación. Entonces, llamamos a cada gobernador, los 24 gobernadores, y empezamos a trabajar juntos. Y todos tenían que incluir en cada una de sus áreas la política y la mirada de la discapacidad. ¿Cómo? Con la palabra inclusión acá en la frente. Entonces comenzó a haber un clima diferente en la Argentina. No queremos decir que ya logramos todo, ni mucho menos, pero sí hemos avanzado mucho, porque lo que hicimos fue mostrar, de alguna manera, con la política pública, lo que yo fui sintiendo con mi propia discapacidad. ¿Qué es lo que fui sintiendo? Que en realidad todos los seres humanos tenemos diferencias, todos tenemos limitaciones y todos tenemos capacidades y talentos. Entonces, cuando uno pone la mirada en la singularidad, en la capacidad de cada persona y no en la limitación, uno cambia el horizonte. La primera palabra que yo tuve como muy presente en el primer tiempo después de mi accidente fue la palabra aceptación. Aceptar la realidad como es. Y sobre esa realidad transformar, cambiar aquello que no nos gusta, trabajar con la mirada hacia el futuro, no hacia atrás. pensando cuánto me gustaba caminar, cuánto me gustaba hacer tal cosa, ahora no puedo. No. La mirada es todo lo que puedo hacer, cuántas cosas puedo transformar. He crecido un montón. Ahora soy mucho más sabia, porque al atravesar este problema, al atravesar esta situación, crecí. Tengo más cosas para dar, no menos. Y con esa mirada de la aceptación, trabajamos también en las políticas. Luego, la palabra determinación, que me parece fantástico, muy importante tenerla presente. La palabra determinación tiene que ver con mirar desde la realidad que tengo el futuro, desde el hoy hacia adelante, siempre hacia adelante. Y con mucha fuerza, con mucha garra. ¿Por qué? Porque estoy más sabia, porque he crecido, porque tengo más cosas para dar, porque ahora puedo transformar la realidad. Y luego, como palabra también fundamental, dijimos aceptación, dijimos determinación, sentido de la vida, propósito. Nuestra vida tiene un sentido trascendente. Nosotros, como seres humanos, tenemos que notar, identificar nuestra dimensión trascendente, nuestra dimensión espiritual. Desde ese lugar hay un propósito de la vida, hay un significado de la vida. No sirve vivir todo el día con mandatos y con identidades que nos ponen desde afuera. Sirve vivir con los propios valores, con quien yo soy, con mi propia esencia, porque desde ese lugar estoy poniendo lo que tengo que poner diferente al resto para todos, para la humanidad, para un mundo mejor. Entonces, hay que mirar la discapacidad como un valor, no como un problema, no como una enfermedad, no como un límite, todo lo contrario, como un valor, como una situación que me hace crecer, que nos hace crecer. Y desde ese lugar poner concretamente en la cancha, decimos nosotros, en la cancha de fútbol, somos campeones, los argentinos, de fútbol, sabemos bastante de fútbol. En la cancha hay que poner todo, hay que dejar todo. Cada jugador aporta su valor, su lugar. Lo mismo tenemos que hacer con las políticas de cada nación. Y por supuesto, como decíamos ayer con Christoph, luego de que cada uno aporta a su comunidad, también está la comunidad internacional. Y la comunidad internacional debería funcionar toda junta, todos unidos, con el mismo criterio y la misma mirada, para ayudarnos mutuamente a hacer posible en la realidad esta visión hacia el futuro de una comunidad que acepta, que se determina a ir para adelante y que además siente que todo tiene un sentido, que todo es trascendente para el ser humano. Muchísimas gracias a todos y estoy dispuesta a cualquier pregunta que quieran hacer luego. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Gabriela, for this very inspiring and well thought reflections on the implementation. And I think this is a very good example that we, and Daryl said this in the morning, for the implementation, we need the national level, we need the persons to do this, just in the way you say it. This is a fantastic example, and I think we, as international organizations, must be aware that, of course, we need the international documents to support this, but the most activity needs to be done for the implementation of these principles in the country, in the community, in the family. Thank you very much.
One minute. Me olvidé de contarles tres hitos, solo pongo el título, que hicimos. Creamos la Agencia Nacional de Discapacidad, un organismo dinámico, técnico, muy ágil para poder implementar las políticas. ¿Y dónde la pusimos a la agencia? A nivel de la Presidencia de la Nación, para que sea una política prioritaria de verdad. En segundo lugar, hicimos una cumbre mundial de discapacidad, la segunda, después de la de Londres. Hay varias cumbres, ¿no? Con la AIDA, con la International Disability Association. Y armamos en Argentina una cumbre mundial que fue impresionante porque vinieron 20.000 personas de todos lados de Latinoamérica y del mundo. Y así estuvimos hablando entre todos sobre estos temas. Y luego hicimos el Plan Nacional de Discapacidad con una mira de 10 años como mediano término y 20 como lejano. Eso quería también decirlo. Gracias.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. And now I would like to introduce Dr. Annette Tabara from Germany. She is Director General in the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, and he has the responsibility for all tax-paid social support programs, and I'm very keen to listen to her, but I would like to say one personal word. Thank you, Dr. Tabara, also to support the incoming president of Rehabilitation International. This is very important to be a successful term. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, Your Excellencies, chairs, fellow speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everybody. And thank you for the opportunity to speak at the World Congress on Rehabilitation. This Congress is, at least for me, a significant one, as it marks the beginning of a new presidency of Rehabilitation International, and it's the second time Germany has held the presidency, the first being in 1972, so it's been a long time. Now, with his vast expertise, Professor Guttenbrunner is an excellent choice for president. Prior to his election, he was chief physician and director general of the Clinic for Rehabilitation Medicine at Hannover Medical School. He's been in this position for 15 years. He's a renowned expert. He's a researcher in the field of rehabilitation. He was president of the Global Rehabilitation Alliance, and he is a member of various other international rehabilitation forums. So, Mr. Guttenbrunner, it's my great pleasure, can't see you, it's my great pleasure to congratulate you on behalf of Germany's federal government and also on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs. Yeah, please do. Okay, I'm not sure this is working. If not, I'll go without the presentation. It's just words and numbers. So you can also listen to me, that's fine. I'll give it another try. Oh, maybe I have to point it to somewhere else. Okay, help is coming. Please be patient for a moment. Sure. Okay, let's wait for the first picture. No. All right. Now, during this conference and during this morning's session, we're discussing different aspects of inclusion and rehabilitation policies. In my contribution today, I want to focus on one particular aspect, and that aspect is the growing importance for rehabilitation in fighting shortage of skilled labor caused by demographic change. There is a high demand for skilled workers in Germany, not least due to demographic trends. We are observing an increased shortage of skilled workers. Currently, we have 50 million people in the German workforce, but only last year, the labor market shrank by up to 400,000 people due to aging. And also, only last year, another 180,000 people dropped out of the job market because they were no longer able to work due to sickness or due to disability. 42% of those dropping out of the labor market did so because of mental health issues. However, the rehabilitation system, at least in Germany, is still mainly focusing on treating physical injuries and disabilities. Now in Germany, we're trying to tackle the lack of skilled workers with a variety of approaches. We're trying to make use of the potential of the digital and ecological transformation to increase the participation of women, also of elder people, and to encourage immigration of skilled workers. And last but not least, we're also strengthening the system of rehabilitation and participation because we believe that it can make an important contribution to meeting these challenges. With effective rehabilitation, well-trained and highly skilled workers, we can live healthier and more self-determined. And those high-skilled workers that receive rehabilitation can also remain in the labor market longer. So that is the background why I chose this topic. Let me now come back to the structure of my presentation. After a brief introduction, I will touch on some quantitative data on rehabilitation. I will then describe the current situation in Germany, also the legal framework. I hope this is not going to be too boring for you, but I try to cut it short. Finally, I will present some success factors and best practices and also an outlook on future projects. Now, for a long time, demographic change and aging society seemed to be a concern only of OECD countries. But new data show us that demographic change is an issue in almost all major regions of the world now, or in some cases, it will come up in the very near future. A shortage of labor and an increased need for rehabilitation will be the result of this development in all regions of the world, sooner or later. Therefore, efficient rehabilitation systems will become increasingly important against the backdrop of demographic change. Now, as you all know, the concept of what is rehabilitation differs from country to country. While rehabilitation in Germany includes a rather broad range of services and benefits, including a participation support, other countries may use a more restrictive definition of the term. So therefore, it's rather difficult to compare the spending on rehabilitation internationally. However, I would like to come up with some interesting indicators and figures. The average spending on incapacity to work as percentage of the GDP was 2% in 2019, 2%, the GDP. It's a high number, and the number has been increasing. We also have some noteworthy data from the WHO report issued in 2022 on rehabilitation needs in the European region. The figures are also from 2019 as the figures before. The figures show, and I think that is really an astonishing number, that 40% of the European population have a serious condition for which the WHO identifies the need for rehabilitation. The report also states that a large number of people in the European region could benefit from rehabilitation services, and most people do not receive any rehabilitation. Now, keep in mind that we're talking about Europe, and also keep in mind that this is the region with countries that have the highest spending on rehabilitation. Still, not all needs are met. The WHO sees its report thus as a call to strengthen rehabilitation services in order to reduce morbidity and foster inclusion. In Germany, spending on rehabilitation has increased over the years, in line with international figures and developments. Only in 2022, we spent around 44 billion euros on rehabilitation. Okay, so much for the data. Now, I want to take a look with you at the current situation and the legal framework for rehabilitation in my country, in Germany. The rehabilitation system in Germany is extremely specialized. Our definition of rehabilitation is broad, I already told you. It includes medical rehabilitation, which might be the closest thing to what is understood by rehabilitation internationally. In Germany, we have excellent medical rehabilitation services in specialized clinics throughout the whole country. But there's more. People with disabilities can apply for various services and benefits. Our understanding of rehabilitation includes fostering employment participation, also social participation, and very importantly, access to education. When we talk about employment participation, that includes the financing of the sheltered workshops. Sheltered workshops are a huge issue in Germany right now because we have this very big discussion going on whether they should be sustained or changed. But employment participation also means occupational assistance to support people to continue to work in the regular job market or to return to it. When we talk about social participation, we talk about benefits and services to assist people in their daily lives. It can mean also support for their leisure time, for example, going on vacation with an assistance. This very broad range of services in the rehabilitation system is the result of a multi-layered system that has developed over time. Its branches offer a high degree of specialization for almost any kind of rehabilitation and individual need. But there's also a downside to this high level of specialization. Because in some non-standard cases, the system can be very complex. Actually, the system is very complex, and in some non-standard cases, it can be maybe not as helpful as it should be. We know of extreme cases where a person has several disabilities for different reasons, for example, an accident at work and other disabilities due to illness, and this person will have difficulties finding even the responsible rehabilitation provider. The German rehabilitation system is based on a person-centered approach. Beneficiaries should be able to decide for themselves which form of housing and support they need in order to ensure that they can participate in society as fully as possible. So self-determination of people with disabilities is the starting point. After ratifying the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities 15 years ago, Germany established a strict human rights-based approach. And in addition to this, we have also simplified the application process for people. Benefits are nowadays provided as if from a single source. Those affected only have to submit one application for all rehabilitation services. So people no longer have to go to different providers to apply for different benefits using different forms. The aim is to offer swift, simple, and user-friendly access to public services and benefits. What we don't want is people to get lost in a jungle of different authorities and systems. Now, as I mentioned in the introduction, the rapidly rising numbers of mental health issues is another relevant issue that we are currently addressing. In its 2022 World Mental Health Report, the WHO concluded that mental disorders are the main cause for disabilities. Worldwide, a few years ago, I have figures only from 2019, so in 2019, nearly 1 billion people worldwide were living with mental health issues. Same thing for Germany. The number of people with mental health problems increased sixfold between the last 10 years. But the traditional German rehabilitation system is still mainly focused on physical conditions. We have to recognize the need to take the special needs and characteristics of mental impairments into account, and I will explain that last statement a bit later. Let's have a look at some modern and new success factors and best practices to tackle those both national and global challenges in rehabilitation. I think a very good thing that we have established in Germany is a so-called participation plan. That is an instrument that obliges all rehabilitation providers to cooperate and to collect the information about an application that is relevant for cross-provider services. The so-called participation plan is an answer to the specifics of our rehabilitation system, and it's placing the person with rehabilitation needs at the center. That's the most important thing. It's all centered around the person needing help. The plan includes the need for rehabilitation. The plan includes medical documents, individual wishes of the person, and besides the coordination and cooperation of the participation plan, it also eases the transition between different rehabilitation stages, service providers, and carriers. We believe that another success factor in Germany is the so-called company integration management. Now, what's that? It's a flexible procedure worked out between employer and employee to overcome periods of incapacity to work. We like to think of those periods as periods and not letting the person drop out of the workforce. The agreement between the employer and the employee entails which assistance or rehabilitation services can be used to prevent a new incapacity to work in order to maintain health and in order to keep the job. Company integration management is becoming increasingly important in terms of retaining skilled workers. We are currently in the process of strengthening this instrument with a new legislative project. It includes more incentives, support, and practical guidance for both companies and employees to use the tool. This is especially relevant for small and medium enterprises, which so often don't have the legal and financial resources to establish an integration management of their own. Now, what else do we plan to tackle the current and future challenges? Together with the rehabilitation providers, we are developing a new digital joint application form for rehabilitation services. It will make it easier to access rehabilitation and participation benefits. In the future, competent service providers will be able to be identified with one click of the mouse. This overview shows the current state of play and what objectives we're aiming for. It's about easier access to services and benefits. It's a focus on the need of the individual. The purpose is to have services and benefits as if from one source, and we have a guaranteed access to all branches of rehabilitation with only one application. Now, I've already mentioned the need of prioritizing the issue of mental health. Our aim is to adapt the rehabilitation system to the specific needs of persons with mental impairments. Mental impairments often go unrecognized due to fear of stigmatization. So we need to work on destigmatizing mental impairments and offer more proactive services to reach out to the people affected. We also need to provide prompt treatment because the chances of recovery from mental health issues, such as depression, for example, are much higher if they are treated at an early stage. Our rehabilitation system also needs to take into account that mental illness is often not a linear progression, but an irregular one. To successfully adapt our system, my ministry is funding initiatives and projects that try out new approaches to helping people with mental illnesses. Ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the beginning of my speech, the demographic development and the lack of skilled labor will be a challenge in most parts of the world in the next decades. Modern and effective rehabilitation systems can be an important instrument to address this challenge. In Germany, we have recognized the need to take action and developed regulatory approaches to modernize our rehabilitation system. Still, we feel the need to further adapt the system to foreseeable developments like the increase of mental diseases. The good news, we can create a win-win scenario. Successful inclusion policies do not only lead to more participation on the part of people with disabilities, they can also be part of the solution to the shortage of skilled labor. So I hope that this conference can make an important contribution to developing common approaches to successful rehabilitation policies. And I'm looking very forward to discussing this matter with you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tabara. And I would like to underline 2 points you made because those are also the points that are discussed in RI Global, which is the importance of including persons with mental health conditions into our rehabilitation strategy. Because people with mental health conditions, they suffer from a kind of disability that is mainly invisible on the first look, and that makes it more difficult to deal with this. And another point I have to make, mental health conditions also have a high risk of poverty and dropping out of the society. So this is very important. I'm very glad also that you mentioned that rehab goes beyond health. It includes health, but it includes also education, labor, and many other aspects of life. So thank you very much, Dr. Tabara.
Yeah, I think also Dr. Tabara and the treat was very interesting to know more about how mature the system is growing in Germany. And I would also vote in terms of how we can work together and looking in how to develop that social inclusion rehabilitation policy, which again, putting in mind that Germany have a really solid system, is growing in the right direction, where we see the vocational is very powerful in developing the right skills for the PODs and the rehab. And we can actually learn from each other, starting with the services that you have mentioned about, which is good to know and identify what is needed for PODs as a start point from where did the German system has built up. And then we can all together work into providing a drafting on the rehab inclusion policy. Thank you again, Dr. Tabara, for sharing this.
Dear distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege and honor to be here today. And I would like to thank the organizers of this conference, Zaid Higher Organization, ISA, and Rehabilitation International, for the invitation to present at this plenary. I've studied in University of Helsinki and worked for a long time in disability organizations such as VATES Foundation, where I worked for 8 years as an expert in employment and rehabilitation issues, and after that as an executive director for 12 years in VAMLAS Foundation, which is a supporting foundation for children and youth with disabilities. At the moment, like I told you earlier, I work with the Laura University of Applied Sciences, where I'm in charge of developing our bachelor's degree studies in social services. We also offer degrees in nursing and physiotherapy, business, IT education, and we also have master's programs, also international programs. I would look at my topic today, ways to inclusive working life, as a process from school to work. I will talk about inclusion in education, transition to work, and in the end, I will also try to focus a little bit in the employer's point of view, as it is important that employers understand how to recruit diverse workforce and find suitable jobs that suit diverse skills and working capacities. I believe that without inclusive and equal opportunities in education, there cannot be an inclusive employment market. I will start with the UN CRPD. It states in its Article 24 that persons with disabilities have the right to participate in inclusive educational system at all levels. All nations should ensure that persons with disabilities are not excluded from general education system and that they can receive the support they require. All children should have opportunities to learn skills and interaction that are required in diverse working life, as it is in schools, where children learn to interact with one another and learn to cope with differences, and also to see things from different perspectives. Most importantly, in inclusive and equal settings, children and youth with disabilities learn to participate and feel that they belong and that their skills are just as important as those of other children. RI has been active in promoting inclusion in education and working life. It published its guidelines to promote transition from school to working life already in 2018. These guidelines look at the role of parents, the role of schools and teachers, and other stuff, and the support system needed in the transition stages. First, we need to pay attention to children with disabilities and their parents, and see that they are provided with sufficient support and help. It's very important that professionals learn and gain knowledge on how they can help families with disabled children to promote the child's own self-assurance and trust on their own capabilities. Second, kindergarten and primary school staff, teachers and support workers need to have knowledge and skills on how to work with children with disability. It is important that all staff and caretakers have at least a basic knowledge on inclusion and special education methodologies and practices. Also, youth with disabilities should have the right for secondary education and support for various transition stages on their educational pathway. Many have the right for basic education, but in order to gain paid employment, further education is often needed. Therefore, it is important to pay attention to the transition from basic to further education. Here are some of the recommendations and tools to promote inclusive education. First, it is important to understand that developing mainstream education is important. Inclusion cannot happen if best practices are spread only in the special education field. We also need to make support services available to mainstream schools and train specialists to support the work of teachers in mainstream education. We also need to develop teacher education and increase knowledge on diversity and inclusion. Teachers and counselors are those in key position to make inclusion a norm, not an exception. We also need to work with the local community to support inclusion and to work to change the attitudes towards inclusion. Many countries have already developed very good systems, and conferences like this one are ideal places to spread best practices around the world. Let me now just shortly introduce some of the RI's products to promote inclusion. We recently had a project that developed a website which is called My Inclusion, where teachers, counselors, and young people with disabilities themselves can learn about inclusion in education, why it is important, how one can promote it, and what inclusion is from the perspective of young people with disabilities themselves. It's a very interesting website with videos and stories of young people with disabilities. I hope you will get a chance to look at it later. RI also produced a guide for universal design in kindergarten, and it is also available on the RI website. And I already introduced you to our guidelines from school to work earlier. Let me now move to talk a little bit about transition to working life. It is often supported throughout the world with special employment measures and policies that either support the job seeker to find a job or the employer to hire a person with a disability. It's important to notice that when we talk about employment, we can mean very many different things. Sometimes it does mean paid job in an open labor market. Sometimes we talk about employment of people with disabilities and mean different vocational rehabilitation services that are aiming to paid employment. And sometimes we talk about employment, but we actually mean social service and special employment arrangements, such as special employment units or sheltered workshops, where people work, but with a benefit, not wages. Some of the common measures to promote employment, the most common policies to promote transition to paid employment, many of these are used in Europe and most likely in many other countries too. I'm going to look at them a little bit. One very common that I hear often when I go around the world in these conferences is the quota system, meaning that each employer is obligated to hire a certain percentage of people with disabilities of their workforce. This is very common. However, the implementation of quota varies a lot from country to country. For example, some countries place a fine for companies that do not meet the required minimum percentage. But some put more emphasis on rewarding best employers, and this can also be a good incentive for companies. Studies suggest that the results of the quota system in increasing the number of people with disabilities in paid jobs vary greatly. Part of this is because the definition of disability varies a lot, like we heard earlier, and it is difficult to say if the quota is helping those people who have more severe disabilities to enter paid employment. Another reason is the fact that many companies already employ people with disabilities and therefore already fill their requirements, but they are not offering new job opportunities for those still outside paid employment. Wage subsidies are common, at least in the Nordic countries. However, it's also been a little bit controversial if it targets the right people and if it is enough of an incentive for all employers. Many countries have legislation that requires employers to provide workplace adjustments, assistive technology to support employing people with disabilities. It is true that with right adjustments, many of those people who have been thought not capable of working will be fully able to perform in their tasks when accessibility and assistive technology is in place. Universal design is one way to promote employment. This means that accessibility is not merely designed for people with disabilities, but all environments are planned in a way that helps everyone in their daily lives, such like automatic doors, remote controls, voice-directed mobile phones are just some of many examples of universal design. But what do the employers need? Why do they want to hire people with disabilities? Well, in my opinion, for the very same reason they want to hire anyone. Employers appreciate skills and motivation and people who are up to their tasks. Workplaces are becoming more and more diverse. Companies are global. Employees represent multiple cultures and languages. Also, their clientele is diverse. Companies need to understand the needs of their clients, and for this, it can be very useful to hire people from diverse backgrounds. Also, many countries are struggling with aging population and lack of skilled workforce. This has made employers to develop new strategies on how to keep skilled people in employment and avoid early incapacity retirement. After all, it can be cheaper to hold on to existing skilled and motivated workforce than to find new and train new ones. Many companies have also developed new recruiting strategies. For example, in Finland, the Vamlas Foundation, where I used to work, we developed training for employers to learn about accessible recruiting. This has been also very successful in many companies. I will now very shortly introduce one of our tools that we used to, we developed with my previous employer, Vamlas Foundation, and we're still working with this Ratko tool, and I will talk about it a little bit more tomorrow in another session. The basic idea of Ratko model is that usually when in the practice of finding people with disabilities or people with lowered working capacity a job, we start with the job seeker's needs, his or her skills, needs, possible deficiencies. We try to find open positions that match the needs of a job seeker. With Ratko, we always start with the employer's needs. We work with the employers and look for new tasks and develop new job profiles that help the work organization to work in a more effective way. We help the work organization to develop and organize work in a new way. Ratko model suits for many purposes that are important to employers all around. It is a useful tool to recruit, as it uses special methodology to measure skills and demand of a job and matches them with the job seeker's skills. It's based on job tailoring or job carving, if you please, but the main idea is to redesign job tasks in the workplace. It's also a good tool for companies to put diversity policies into practice and making corporate social responsibility visible. This morning, I've tried to explain why it is not merely enough to find employment for people with disabilities, but we also need to pay attention to education. By implementing better and more inclusive education, we will have children and youth better prepared for diverse working life. There is also plenty of proof that job seeking is not successful if we only look at the job seekers' incapacities. We have to look at the skills and the capacities and encourage especially young people with disabilities to believe that they too can fully participate in the working life. This also requires that we put in place all the assistance and all the technology the person needs to be able to perform in a job. This is not enough if we don't also look at the employer's needs and talk with the work communities. But most of all, we need to raise awareness that people with disabilities can work, can be productive, and have skills, just like everyone else, when the job suits a person's aspirations and skills. Let us make the most of this wonderful event, share ideas, best practices, and all of our expertise here during these couple of days. We already know so much. Now we just have to put our knowledge into action. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Paulina, for this very comprehensive and inspiring speech. And I think it's very important to point out that inclusion starts with good education. And you also pointed out that the transition from schools and kindergartens to the job is one point, and in between we have the training for the jobs in universities and in other organizations. And I think we also need to focus on this in the near future to make sure that these educational units are inclusive and follow the concept of universal design. Thank you very much. And now, it's a very big honor to introduce my neighbor to the right, the president and founder of Arab International Women's Forum. So, the floor is yours, Dr. Haifa Al-Kayani.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me, both personally and as president and founder of the Arab International Women's Forum, to be with you today in Abu Dhabi on the special occasion of the World Congress on Rehabilitation 2024, held for the first time in the Middle East. I am honored to contribute to this significant landmark event that aims to enhance human rights and raise societal awareness about disability, rehabilitation, training, and professional development for people of determination. At the outset, I wish to extend my appreciation and express my high regard to our session chairs, His Excellency Abdullah Al-Humaidan, Secretary General of the Zayed Higher Organization for People of Determination, and Christoph Guttenbrunner, Professor of Rehabilitation Medicine at Hanover Medical School, and to all the distinguished speakers who have addressed already our panel. I had the honor to visit earlier this year the Zayed Higher Organization for People of Determination in Abu Dhabi. It is truly an inspiring organization, and I cannot praise enough the world-class care and rehabilitation programs offered, with a clear emphasis on education and training to ensure that people of determination can participate fully in the creation of a more inclusive society and economy in the United Arab Emirates. In the MENA region and in every region, the economic empowerment of women of determination, and importantly, of mothers of children of determination, is underexplored, with next to no data available on the inclusion and engagement of women of determination in Arab economies. Economic inclusion for women of determination is a priority for us in the Arab International Women's Forum because we recognize that women with disabilities, as UN Women has found, are often subjected to double discrimination due to their gender and disability, and continue to be at a disadvantage in most spheres of society and development. Women and young people in the region are the Arab world's most precious resource and are integral to equitable, sustainable economic growth that can transcend social barriers and blaze a new trail for the next generation. Quite simply, without women of all abilities playing their rightful role in the economy and in society, the Arab world cannot achieve its full potential. There is much to be done. According to UN Women data, the gender gap in the region is quite stark when it comes to people of determination. Women with disabilities are 3 times more likely to have unmet needs for healthcare, 3 times more likely to be illiterate, 2 times less likely to be employed, and 2 times less likely to use the internet. Clearly, there is much that needs to change. First, I wish to share a global brief overview of the economic and social realities of women of determination. According to the World Health Organization and the World Bank, over 1.3 billion people, approximately 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability. Among them, 1 in 5 women live with disability. The mission to empower women of determination has already taken root in international instruments and frameworks for promoting the rights and equality of people of determination. These include the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2006. However, as UN Women finds, international and national laws and policies on the rights of persons with disabilities have historically neglected aspects of gender equality. And those addressing gender equality have ignored the rights of women of determination. According to the World Bank, only 30 out of 86 economies worldwide with gender equality laws protect the rights of women with disabilities. So what are the key obstacles for women of determination? First, access to education for children with disabilities is often limited, and as a result, literacy rates are lower among people with disabilities. Second, caring for a disabled child typically involves higher healthcare expenses, including medical treatments, therapies, and assistive devices. Third, poverty. The World Bank and WHO have indicated that disability is both a cause and a consequence of poverty. Fourth, impact of COVID-19. We cannot underestimate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, which disproportionately affected women all over the world, but especially women and girls with disabilities. Fifth, disparities in employment. Globally, drawing from the ILO research, we know that people with disabilities are significantly less likely to be employed compared to those without disabilities. As a result, many disabled individuals work in the informal sector, where jobs are typically less secure, lower paid, and lack benefits such as healthcare and social security. All the above highlight the urgent need for inclusive policies and targeted interventions to improve employment outcomes for women of disabilities and address their specific needs and challenges. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, empowering disabled women through economic inclusion and entrepreneurship is crucial for several compelling reasons, from social justice and human rights to boosting economic development, growth, and broader societal well-being. Allow me to elaborate. When disabled women are economically empowered, they are better able to support their families, ensuring better education, healthcare, and living standards for their children. This has a ripple positive effect on the entire community. Arab countries have long demonstrated a commitment to supporting the rights of persons with disabilities, with many states having signed and ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, including the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Morocco, Egypt, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, Lebanon, Tunisia, and others. 13 Arab countries have established national coordination mechanisms, often in the form of national disability councils, to oversee and promote the implementation of disability rights. And many states have implemented various policies and initiatives to empower and support people of determination, which include education policies, employment initiatives, and accessibility improvements. Hence, in summary, I want to highlight the strategies required to strengthen, support, and empower women and people of determination in the MENA region workforce. First, providing accessible education and vocational training for women with disabilities ensures they have equal opportunities to acquire skills and secure progress in their employment. Education is the most powerful tool we have for empowerment. Second, empowering people of determination, especially in entrepreneurship, encourages innovation and can lead to the creation of new business ventures, which not only provide income for the entrepreneurs, but also create jobs. We are seeing this most profoundly in the digital sectors and in the app economy, where women are leveraging remote work and digital technologies to start up and scale up digital businesses with the freedom to work around their home and their health. Distinguished guests, the title of my talk really says it all: Breaking Barriers, Building Futures. To advance the economic empowerment of women of determination, we must focus on improving vocational rehabilitation, ensuring equal employment opportunities, and fostering a society that fully recognizes their potential. This means creating environments that not only accommodate, but also empower women of determination to achieve economic independence and thrive in all areas of life. It is not just about education and employment. We must create a culture of inclusion, where these women are seen for their capabilities, not their disabilities. A study by the Ministry of Community Development in the UAE highlighted that as women of determination improve their educational levels, their opportunities in the labor market and social integration significantly increase. This underscores the critical need for investing in accurate, tailored, and localized data, which will help us design effective, impactful programs that directly address the unique challenges faced by women of determination and guide our policies and interventions, ensuring that we build a future where every woman of determination can contribute, can thrive, and can realize her full potential. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, to achieve the economic empowerment for women of determination, we need a mixed bag of stakeholder engagement and collaboration, of multi-level, cross-cutting dialogue, and of political will to ensure that women of determination enjoy equal rights to men in every aspect of the economy and in society. Governments should develop and enforce comprehensive anti-discrimination laws that specifically protect the rights of disabled women. And they should work more closely with the private sector to leverage their resources and knowledge, transforming business practices and labor laws to enshrine gender equality for all women, explicitly including women with disabilities. Companies should adopt diversity hiring policies that actively seek to employ disabled women. A core recommendation from the UN Women, which also we very much support, is that there should be deeper engagement between governments and the private sector and civil society actors, and importantly, with disabled women and girls themselves. We need women of determination and their voices to meaningfully participate in policy consultations and in national, regional, and international meetings and advocacy. By removing barriers and providing support, these initiatives not only improve the life of disabled women, but also contribute to the overall prosperity and to the social and economic development of the whole region. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much for this inspiring speech and pointing out two main facts. One is the fact of double discrimination, and the other one is the contribution of women to society, which is a key contribution. I'm very happy that you put this into a larger framework. And I can assure you that Rehabilitation International is very much aware that it is important to work on this topic. And yesterday in our governing assembly, Madame Zhang Haidi made a suggestion to organize an international event for women with disability to discuss more in depth about this issue. And I would be very happy if we could collaborate on this and include your wisdom into the preparation of such an event.
Yes, I agree, Professor Gutenberg. Thank you very much, Dr. Haifa. Now, this session was very useful for us. Let me speak on the first hat, which is the General Secretary of Zaid organization. We received a lot of information, some opinions, suggestions, which I'm sure that we will take it in consideration. However, Dr. Haifa have mentioned a very important thing, which I totally agree with Dr. Christopher, that because RI have the region for the Arab, the Middle East and North Africa, and especially in Commission, it's working on work and employment and women with disability. So this information is highly needed that we can put it back into RI discussion between the Deputy Vice Chairman of the region to set a plan as far we got the information, and maybe we can collaborate and see how we can really start working on this to support the women with disability in the Arab countries. I thank you again for the wonderful speech and the information you gave, and if we will thank the audience.
Well, now this session is coming to an end, and I think we had so many inspiring and wise presentations here that need more discussion and more thoughts. I would be happy to have more discussion here on the podium, but even I think it is more important that discussion goes to all of us. The discussion needs to be done in the coffee break, in the lunch break, and we have so many suggestions, so many aspects learned today, so we need to digest, but we need to discuss, we need to share this, and I'm extremely grateful to all the panelists, and this was a very great opening session, first session for the continuation of the Congress. So thank you very much again to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.